Hello, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel. I posted this picture recently over on my Instagram, and I shared that I wanted to show exactly how I made these leaves because it was so fun and it was new to me, and I'm sure this is not a new technique, but I'm going to share it with you. Now, it doesn't matter what stamp you're using, but I recommend a leaf stamp with the veins in it. So something that has a little bit of intricacy, not just a flat stamp that looks like a leaf. So that's my recommendation. I'm using the Cozy Sentiments and Critters from scrapbook.com. Now, in hindsight, because you know it's always clearer back there, I would have kept with my white mat for this so I can actually see the colors that I'm mixing. So I recommend using a white mat. But I had my my new grip mat that I wanted to play some more with, and so I kept that. I do love this mat, and I have it in white. So hello, Mary. I don't know why I just didn't use it in white. Anyway, let's get into this because I'm showing you what not to do first, or not maybe what not to do, but how it's going to come out. I put the ink down on the mat and then I sprayed it too much. It became too watery. So what I'm recommending here for this technique is very minimal water but not super dry like I'm showing you right now. So there I wanted to show the contrast between too much water and no water. So what I end up doing here is I'm going to change the paper in a second, but I'm going to go through, and as I'm just experimenting right now, I noticed that a little less water on the mat with the ink gives me exactly the watercolor look I'm going for without losing the image. So we're going to go and try it again. 2 spritzes of water with some ink. Now I'm going to do one color. I believe I do one color at a time. Now, what did I do? I placed the ink into the stamp into the ink, and I let it sit there for a second. Then when I put it down onto the cardstock, I let it sit there for a few seconds. I'm using accent opaque cardstock in the 100-pound weight. You can try this with watercolor cardstock. I didn't want to because of the texture of watercolor cardstock. I thought maybe it would be a little too difficult for me to get this look, but I don't think so. I think it's just fun to experiment, so give it a try. But you can see here that I'm just going back and picking up. I chose to do one color at a time just to make things a little bit easier. But I think at the end, I kind of mix a little overlap just to get the difference in the colors for the leaves themselves. But right now, really, truly, to be honest, at this point, I am just trying to figure out how to do this technique. All right, so now, yeah, right there, I put 2 colors down and I sort of stamped them in both. And I did use just a spritz or 2 of water. The spritzer I'm using provides a mist and droplets, so I like that because the mist kind of makes it a little bit more even. So that's another just added tip that I wanted to share with you. Okay, I used one of the other leaves. There's 2 leaves in this stamp set, and I grabbed that one and I'm doing like alternate. Now I'm mixing a 3rd color. So you can see I'm getting this beautiful, beautiful, kind of realistic-ish look, but a very watercolory look without losing all of the image intricacy. So that is really what I was starting to get super excited about. At this point, I'm trying to figure out, well, I think I want to turn this into a card, so let me be a little more strategic with where I'm putting the leaves. And so I start to add a bit more chunk of them towards the bottom, less up towards the top, to give just some really fun anti-symmetry, I suppose. And then I'm going to go in and just fill it in and go off of the cardstock to make it look like a more authentic or organic background. So that is what I'm finishing up with this card, doing that. And so really that was just sort of the down and dirty of how I went from learning about too much water to not enough water and then finding a happy medium right in the middle. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do is pick up this ink, because if you hang with me, you know I don't like to waste it, and then I just compile a million backgrounds that I never use. So, you know, there's the truth. But I am starting to use them, and in fact, I do post on my Instagram how I used this background. So there's a plug for you. If you're not hanging out with me over on Instagram, click that button below and follow. All right, so let's go back to this card. I am going to put down some ground espresso. Oh, I should have mentioned I'm using distressed Oxide inks. So I used the espresso, and I'm just going to pick that up with my little brush with some water and just get some droplets. I think droplets on fall cards is so perfect because it just, I don't know, you think of fall. You think of droplets? No. You think of like texture and scatteredness, and I have no idea what I'm saying. All right, let's go into the sentiment. So I chose the sentiment thanks only because it fit the best. All the sentiments are great. I really liked the grateful one, but it didn't quite look as good. So I'm going to go with thanks, and I'm going to do a really fun shadow technique. So I'm going to stamp it first in this Fallen Leaves VersaFine Clair ink. This is a dark brown, beautiful, rich, dark pigment brown ink, and I'm going to heat set that because pigment ink stays wet longer, so you can heat emboss with it, which is great, where you put the powder over and heat it up. But I don't want that right now. I want this fully dried. Here's how I test it. Anti-static powder tool, just go ahead and pat that on there, and then just pour embossing powder over it, and you could see if it's going to stick or not. So with a little tap off, it fell right off. So I'm good. It's dried. We're going to go back and we're going to move the stamp the tiniest bit to the right or left. It doesn't matter. Just move it off of its exact center. And now I'm going to use sticky embossing ink. This is from scrapbook.com. Any embossing ink will do in my Misty stamping tool. And I'm going to stamp that twice. Then I'm going to go back with some gold embossing powder, pour that on, flick it off, make sure that it's not sticking anywhere in the brown. And then I'm going to heat set it. It is the tiniest of shadows. I don't even know if you can see it on camera, if I'm totally honest. But in person, I see it. And it just sets it back a tiny bit. It almost looks dimensional. So I really like it. I probably would do, when I do this again, I'll move it a little bit more. All right, let's move on to our embellishments here. I chose to use some of these gold pearls just to add a little something around the sentiment. And then I'm going to use this Artiste glue right here. This is the new glue from scrapbook.com. I'm going to plug it again. Love it. It's amazingly priced for what you get. Do not keep the pin it comes with inside. It will rust. Ask me how I know, because I did it. So you want one of those pins that does not rust. I know there's a bunch of crafters that sell them. You can get them at Joann Fabrics. That's the one I use. I get them in the sewing section. Okay, now I'm going to add my pops of color. So I chose the gold glitter, and I'm going to put this pops of color in the veins of the leaves. It's not really seeable, if you will, on camera as well as it is in person. I think it just adds such a beautiful sparkle and extra bit to it. So I was glad I did that. So that will do it for this card. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. If you want to be on my email list, I send out lots of updates and when sales go on, and then just some freebies. Click that link below, get your name added to that. Connect with me on other social media platforms, and I will put on screen here some other videos that you might like. I'll see you in the comments down below and in the next video. Bye-bye.